Hello, and welcome to another episode of Two Chicks, One Show, where we dissect one currently airing show, an episode a week. We are dissecting it. Kate, don't give me that face. I know you can't see her, but it's weird. Um, my name is Tricia, and she's Kate Calabro. We are the Two Chicks. This week's one show, as last week, is Agent Carter on ABC, and it just keeps getting better. Take it away, Kate.
I made that face because the word dissect was just odd. It was an odd choice.
We are dissecting the show, okay? And analyzing.
Breaking it down. Okay, so in this episode of Agent Carter, Peggy Carter almost blows her secret mission when Jarvis is actually taken in by the SSR because, he's Howard Stark's butler, so clearly Howard Stark is, this awful person, so, his butler must be an awful person.
No, it's because of the license plate.
Well, yeah, that too, but I'm just saying that was just a technicality. They really were just waiting to find something to take Jarvis. So Carter remains very loyal to Jarvis and kind of almost gives herself up by getting him out of the SSR. So later on, Jarvis and I don't remember how they got to the docks, but they end up at the docks and they find pretty much all of Stark's bad babies. And because Carter's forced to live in the shadows and cannot take the glory for herself, she makes Jarvis call in an anonymous tip to the SSR.
Okay. Yeah, I just watched the episode literally about a half an hour ago, and I also have no idea how they got to the docks. I assume they drove.
Yeah, but what led them to the docks?
I don't remember, and I literally just watched it.
Yeah, Yeah.
Anyway, no, I really like this episode. I think the show is honestly just getting better. There were a few issues that I had with the first episode. I mean, I was really, really jazzed that it was as good as it was, and then upon reflection and reading of other people's opinions, I realized that there were a few things that were missing, and one of the big things was that, and this is a similar issue that we have when we're doing our Outlander recaps, which go watch those after this episode, is that she didn't have any real flaws yet. So, she was a really interesting character, but she wasn't a flawed character. She was just Rosie the Riveter. I mean, she was the girl power of 1940s women, and that was all cool. But if that was the only thing, I think it would get wearing. The fact that this episode we find out that she is that to a fault was actually more interesting when she and Jarvis go and they find the things and she's like, I'm going to go tell them I found them because then they will have to respect me.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You will get arrested. That will be bad.
Yeah.
So that she has to sort of swallow her pride, and I like that she's a little bit arrogant and a lot actually, really concerned with how her male coworkers see her. Because I think that's really important for the character, and I like that she's got this flaw that she's going to have to work on all season.
Yes.
You agree with me. Okay, that's good.
I do agree. I don't know. I wouldn't say, she was annoyingly unflawed like how Jamie is annoyingly unflawed.
Well, I think Jamie is annoyingly unflawed because he's continuously annoyingly unflawed. I could deal with it for a few episodes early on, and then after a while I was like, all right, you've got to do something wrong. And at least she's making mistakes early enough in the show that I'm like, oh good, fully realized character, we got this. Yeah,
so I never, I didn't read the same article that you read, simply because I forgot. And
I was going to say, I sent it to you.
Yeah, but I didn't see her as this perfect human being. From what I'm taking that they described in the article, I think she's a little bit more complicated, and I think she has many layers to her, and I think maybe externally she's trying to be that unflawed human being, but I think there's a lot of, internal things going on with Agent Carter.
I agree, and I think we saw some of that in the first two episodes where, she's worried about getting close to people, which is a really typical reaction from superhero characters, and especially in their second adventure. In their first one they were all like, I want to be friends with everyone, and in their second one they're like, crap, people die. And so that was where she was in the first episode, and I like that because at least it's treating her the same way that they're treating all of their male characters.
Hmm.
But at the same time, uh, she was constantly just better than her male counterparts. It wasn't a struggle.
Yeah.
And this episode, I think, really, like, the first two episodes were like the Agent Carter movie, and now these episodes are now we're going to get in and we're going to really understand the character and see all the different layers that we have written into the story, which I'm just really glad about that. I didn't doubt they would do that. There was a little bit of worry, but I'm really glad that they're delving in and making her more interesting,
Yeah.
which just adds to the character and adds to the awesomeness of the character and proves that you can write interesting, strong female characters that are also normal.
Yes. I agree with you on your second half of that statement.
Okay. But anyway, there were a lot of other things. So not only did we learn that Agent Carter has a flaw, and that she's a fully realized, more interesting character, but we also got to know more about Jarvis and his not dead wife. Awesome.
I remember I live tweeted last night, and as soon as I heard her voice in the background, I go, my ship just sank, because apparently his wife is real.
Yes, and I'm actually really glad. Like I liked him being all cute about his wife, and then I was like, crap, it's totally gonna be she's dead and he's delusional, and this is both adorable and tragic. And then last night's episode sank that whole ship. Thank freaking God.
Yeah. So we actually, in this episode, we hear her voice, which I did mention, second view of the first episode, you hear her voice.
Yes,
So
you did, but I also thought that might have been a delusion.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people caught it, but she was present, so it shouldn't have been too much of a surprise. But it was. So she's real. We know her name is Anna, and we know that Jarvis committed treason for her back in the war.
I wish I had a guy who would commit treason for me. Wait.
No, it's every girl's dream, right?
During World War II, when you're about to be sent to a concentration camp, hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It really was the dream for her.
Yeah, so we learned that Jarvis not only committed treason, but like super committed treason, and got out of it, and that's how he ended up working for Howard, was that Howard helped him get out of it and helped Anna get into the country, but she's still kind of there illegally.
Yeah, I guess that's probably why we don't see her. Maybe?
I think we don't see her as part of the mystery, and also because I don't think she's an entirely necessary character to see at this point in time.
True, and I think, but the SSR knows that he's married to her, and he know that they're both immigrants, and they can be deported, because that was Chad Michael Murray's character, which I think it's Jack, which is a completely perfect name for him, just, Jack. Does his whole, they bring Jarvis in after they find the license plate and the ball of rubble from that place they blew up. And Jarvis goes willingly and is pretty much like cool as a cucumber. Clearly he's been investigated before.
I liked the line, I haven't been in the back of a car in ages.
Yeah. Jarvis was his charming Jarvis self with a little bit of an edge, because he's like, you guys are dicks. And so we find out a little bit about his treason, how he started working for Howard Stark, and his wife situation. So that was nice to get to know Jarvis a little bit more.
Yeah, and it made him more interesting too, in that now he's less so like, ooh, look, flaws. It was, hey, human backstory. He's not just this caricature of a British butler. He's fun and interesting, and he's very much, and I was getting this vibe a lot during this episode, he's very much the Watson to her Holmes.
Yeah, like he's so much more, like the first two episodes he's kind of like that spunky sidekick, and now he's like has a little bit more of an individual story that will be coming into play within this limited series.
Yes, and it's given his character depth and and something more human, and I like that it's that establishing that his wife is not in fact dead, is very much alive, he is still very much in love with her and will do anything to protect her, really helps get rid of that ship, sinks the crap out of any Peggy Carter ship except for the Daniel one, which is so a thing still, and also lets the show become a kind of buddy cop comedy. Yeah. Except with spies.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Carter actually is at Howard Stark's house when Jarvis is taken in, and she's like hiding behind the drapes that a bunch of detectives don't see her, very. So she goes back to work, and she just I don't understand how they have like shifts, so they come in and they come out. And like, doesn't she have things that she's always just like going into the interrogation room and just watching? Like, doesn't she have like a list of things that she should be doing?
I have no idea what that setup is. I assume
Yeah,
she's like delivering something or doing, I don't know. She's doing something. Here was the thing that bugged me. In certain aspects of the story, over the course of the first part of the episode, I
mhm.
kept wondering if they actually knew what she did during the war, if they have any
Yeah,
idea. Because, like, her boss, when she specifically, and we were getting to this, when Jarvis is being interrogated in order to save him from inevitably outing what they've been doing or
mhm.
getting seriously injured in the process, she fakes a theft report, essentially, that he
Yeah,
filed, and she pretends like she just didn't see it or didn't do something. So she pretends to be incompetent in order to get Jarvis released.
yeah.
And her boss throws that at her like, you wonder why you don't get any real assignments, blah blah blah, you're a horrible screw up, you're ruining these men who are doing a perfectly adequate job. um and so I wondered for a big chunk of the episode if they actually have any idea who she is, and or if that like was all secret. And then later in the episode, Krasinski specifically says that essentially that she dated Captain America.
Well, they said in the first episode when they did like that like morning meeting kind of thing, and she goes, Howard Stark was a personal friend of mine, and they go, we know you met a lot of important people being the liaison to Captain America. So they know that she worked with Captain America, but I don't think they know exactly what she did.
Okay,
Like,
that's fair, and
thought,
I would buy that before I'd buy that they know and are dismissing it outright, because that just makes them bigger assholes,
yeah,
or that
like
they don't know at all.
I think what they think is that she was like the personal assistant to Steve Rogers and was dating him. Like I think that's what
Or
I
at
don't know.
least that she had a thing for him, because who didn't?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that, because I think I saw and also missed the Howard Stark reference, because they also ask how she knows Jarvis, and I'm like, well, she knows Stark.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like
That
either
basically the men she works with and for are idiots.
it's like they're either really bad detectives or they just don't care what comes out of her mouth. Like I
I
don't
think
know.
they honestly don't care what comes out of her mouth, and I don't think that's entirely far off historically.
No.
So,
Whatever. It's like I don't know how she does it every day. Like if I had to go there every day, she must
and she
really.
manages to deal with it really well. Like, she never snaps at them or like tells them, "Well, I'm better than you," but she obviously really wants to.
Yeah.
That's her
Well,
big
she
thing.
like she knows she's better than them. So maybe that's why she's able to put on this act because she like deep down she knows. But
But I like that she wants the recognition.
yeah.
That was
Well,
her.
I think when you even if you have a shit job, you still want your boss to be like, you did a good job today. Like,
Yeah. And I like that she wants it now, and that we're seeing that she wants it, rather than like I said in the last episode that um I liked that she wasn't freaking out about wanting the recognition. She was just proving that she's better than them. But at
yeah.
the same time, I like that she does want it. She's not freaking out about it, but she's
Mhm.
obviously concerned about being taken seriously, because that's you. Everybody wants to be taken seriously.
Mhm.
So, anyway, I just feel like this episode established her more as a human person, and that was cool. And I'm gonna stop talking about that now. Uh, other things that happened in this episode. There were actually a few things that happened. She kicks the crap out of some thug.
Yeah, he was like they turned out so they go to the docks, they find the bad babies. Jarvis informs her that, she can't take credit for it because then they're gonna know, and to really clear Stark's name, she's gonna have to just, fade into the shadows or something. He says something like dramatic about shadows or something.
That she
And
has to work in the shadows, I think.
yeah. So he goes to make his this was another interesting thing. They have a police box that goes right to their line.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that he calls specifically the
Oh,
SSR.
she like gave him the number.
She gave him the phone number
Oh,
of the
okay. I
SSR.
thought it was. I thought like the box was like a direct line.
No,
I'm
well,
like,
police boxes were direct lines to the police
yeah.
in the 40s.
Anyway, so he does his amazing American accent, which started to drift
Hey,
off into
Mac.
Jarvis. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that she says like, fine, call it anonymously. You know, Sousa's still there. I'd rather he gets the credit than Krasinski,
Yeah.
which is cool. Very nice.
So as he's making his phone call, this big thug who he like I think they said he worked at Coney Island. They later state that the thug worked at Coney Island, and she just like beats the crap out of him. Like yet again, she's like, "Ugh, not again," and just like kicks his ass. And then
Well, she doesn't completely kick his ass though, because he does get the upper hand eventually, and then Jarvis blunders in.
yeah, Jarvis walks in and they use one of the bad babies, and it like it's something like it makes him glow or something.
It causes muscle constriction to a point where it breaks his arm.
Yeah, and I said
Which,
during
ow.
live tweeting, I was like, why does everything evil have to glow? Like everything so far that is like a bad baby or a weapon is glowing. So I
Yeah.
guess now we know that if it's glowing, it's bad.
Well, it's always been that way with the Marvel Universe, and someone actually said this during the first episode online on Twitter. Someone said, "Okay, Marvel, can we stop with the glowing MacGuffins?" Which I agree with. I mean, unless it's an Infinity Stone, I
Yeah,
don't know that I really care that it glows. Just tell me it's a bad thing. I get it.
yeah. So thank you for that visual aid, Marvel. We now know.
If it
You
glows,
could,
it's bad.
yeah. Um. So after they tag team beat up this, Coney Island muscle, here comes, the crew of dudes to, oh, we got the bad babies, and it smells like we gotta find Stark. It's still Stark's fault, even though he's nowhere near the bad babies. This is me doing the chief.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was actually bothering me too, and I was complaining about this to my dad upstairs, annoyingly because I'm
We
me.
got upstairs,
My dad upstairs, physical human person, not God.
He's physically upstairs.
I was saying that it really kind of annoys me that they're zeroing in on Stark regardless of any actual proof. I get that they have proof in the sense that they are his things and they're turning up on the market
Yeah,
and
but someone went through
sold
his
them.
vault. Like, they're his things, but someone broke into it. Like, his vault has a huge hole in it. Like, it's not like, why? And it was like the nicest vault I've ever seen in my life. Like, that's his vault. It's like marble flooring.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's very McCarthy-esque.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm hoping that maybe down the line we'll find out, like, it's specifically the chief that's really like, this is Stark's fault. Stark is a bad guy. Like, so does the chief have like a chip on his shoulder? Like, did he get in a fight with Stark back in the day during the war? Because he's the one that's like, this everything bad happened is because of Stark.
Yeah, like we'll keep going. So after they retrieve all of the bad babies, God, I really hope to never say that again. They're driving back. I did like the line, "Drive careful. I don't want to be the one that sank the island."
Yeah, that was good.
Which was funny. So they're on their way back, and Krasinski, the expendable one, is
Yeah.
driving back with the guy, the thug that Carter beat up, and she didn't want to leave him when they showed up, but they had to because he's a witness, not just to the stuff, but also to the fact that she was there.
Yeah.
And he says, was the broad with you or something? And he's like, what are you talking about? And she says, the English. She's like, English and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, English?
Yeah,
So,
he's like, tell me more. What did she look like?
and then they get stopped at a railroad crossing and they get rear-ended and he gets out to be all and gets shot in the head. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the second he figured out that Carter was involved somehow, he had signed his death certificate. You should really wait to question people until you get back to the station if you want to take some lessons from television. Because the second you figure something out, someone's going to come and kill you. So, Krasinski died.
Yeah, in the TV world, we're not saying, if you're a cop, you're not going to necessarily die as soon as you figure something out.
I said if you want to take a lesson from television, obviously
Okay.
you should wait to question the suspect because you shouldn't learn things. So Krasinski gets shot, and it's actually interesting because in this episode earlier on, they actually had a moment where it was a little jovial, where she makes a dig at Krasinski, and they're all like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So it was interesting that there is at least a little camaraderie in the office in the midst of all the chauvinism.
Hmm.
Um, so it hits everybody really hard that
Yeah.
he is killed. And more to your point about the chief being the one that's very anti-Stark, he comes out and says, "We just need to remember that Howard Stark did this."
Howard Stark is the reason why Ray is dead, and I'm like, whoa, dude, calm it down.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's a bit much. So yeah, so she walks in, and I guess the ladies that do the telephone lines know
Just
because
the
they're all
one lady.
no, because the girl when she first walks in bawling.
Really? I didn't see that. I just saw the other
Yeah.
lady.
No, when she first walks in, the girl at the first girl is crying. They're all like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay," which I'm assuming that's his girlfriend. He had a wife and a girlfriend. He wasn't, the most lovely man. Um, and I'm assuming that is his girlfriend. And then at the end, the one that actually buzzes them up. She's like, "Oh, you didn't hear?" She goes in there and there's roses on his desk, which I guess was fine. And they're all like really like sad, which and then the chief does that thing where he's like, "Oh, this is Stark's fault. Ray's dead because of Stark." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh my
I
god."
liked that they were all upset though. Like
Yeah,
even though they don't all get along, like Daniel was upset, Peggy is really upset at the end because there
mhm,
is a certain amount of camaraderie. You do work with these people all the time, and it could just as easily have been anybody else. So
yeah,
even though like he was the one they all sort of shit on all the time, um, it was nice to see them. It was nice to see a little bit of humanity in all of them, so that
mhm,
it's not necessarily an us versus them situation. Like this
yeah,
very very well could be the first Shield team. And I think that we finally found like an inclination that that's something that could happen, that these people could end up turning onto her side eventually.
yeah. And I think you can even
Katie, still there? I think
what?
are you still
Am I
there?
frozen?
You were. I think you're okay
I'm still
now.
there. Yeah.
Okay, just keep talking.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was gonna say I think in this episode you can really understand that Peggy doesn't see it as a her versus SSR. Clearly, she wants these guys to believe that she can handle things. She wanted to call it in. So I don't think she is acting like once this is over, I'm no longer like she. I don't think she acts like she's not part of the team. You know what I'm saying? Like I still think she thinks of herself as a team player.
Yeah,
She's
and
still an agent for SSR.
I agree. And I think this is the first. I mean, this is only episode 3, but it is only third of 8 episodes. So I think this is the first inclination that we get that it isn't us versus them. It isn't her versus
Yeah.
SSR. It isn't even
Mhm.
her versus her coworkers. It's that she's got to help her
Yeah.
friend. Her coworkers are idiots, and she has to work around them, but she still wants to work with them if possible.
Yeah. I think if they weren't on this, like they didn't drink the I hate Stark juice, they would probably be a little bit more tolerable. But now that Ray's dead, I don't know how much tolerable they're going to be towards.
Right. It may even get worse now that Ray's dead, and they are going to have like a more serious vendetta
Yeah.
against him. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes.
So that'll be really interesting to see. I think we've really set up an interesting story in these first 3 episodes. That we had the
Mhm.
introduction to the whole story and the Peggy Carter kicks ass, and we twist the knife of Captain America in the first 2, and now we're getting into the everybody is a person, and here is how we're going to make them all kind of likable.
Mhm.
Although I'm still waiting for Jack to be really likable.
I think like Jack is a dick, but I think he had some major issues during the war.
Yeah, and I think he actually, in that last scene, he did establish himself as a person because the chief is like, I'll call his wife, and he's like, I guess I should probably call his girlfriend.
Yeah.
He's obviously a good guy. I mean, he's
Hmm.
just got really old-fashioned views of everything, especially women, and
Hmm.
um, and he's not terribly fair when it comes to interrogations. But that seems to be how the SSR works, not
Yeah, I
him.
don't think like the interrogation thing wasn't something that was shocked me. Like it's it's the 40s, the war just ended, so I'm not too surprised. But
I'm
he's
always surprised when people just beat the crap out of people for interrogations, but they are a secret organization. It's like the
yeah.
1940s version of the Patriot Act.
So, but I think my favorite scene from this episode would probably be the final one.
Oh yeah, I really love the final scene. I liked actually both scenes with the women because in
Yeah.
addition to the creating a more interesting, diverse world and more interesting, diverse
Mhm.
characters, we get to know a little bit about the boarding house where Peggy lives, where you are not allowed to have male visitors on the second
Yeah.
floor,
Hmm. And in
which
the
is
beginning of the episode, a man is scaling the building, and Peggy gets out her gun and was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, just trying to find my girlfriend." And she says like this great line, "Don't you know the rules of the house? No man above the first floor." And then she's like, "Ah." And then he goes and he spends the night with his girlfriend. And then during complimentary breakfast, the girl just gets kicked out. The lady that I guess like owns or runs it, she's like, "Okay, well, bye, Molly."
yeah, that rules are very specific. Do not break the rules of this boarding house. I liked it. I thought it was funny. And I like all the girls that work there and the way that like Peggy interacts with them because it's her trying to blend in with the real world.
Yeah, and
Um,
she's like kind of awkward.
yeah, and because she feels like she has to have this completely separate secret life,
Mhm.
and this is still when she feels like she's not allowed to have friends because everybody just gets hurt and killed.
Yeah,
And I think by the end of the episode, she finally realizes that people are gonna die whether she's friends with them or not because this
yeah,
dude she hates just died. So,
yeah,
and she needs
exactly.
to talk to somebody, and she can't talk to the people she works with, and I don't think she feels comfortable talking to Jarvis.
Yet.
So
I
then
think
your
it is.
favorite scene appears where she goes to the automat to talk to Angie.
She talks to. I love Angie. I think Angie's such a great character. I want like an Angie spin-off where she becomes, the voice actress for the Captain America radio shows. Like I don't know. I just want something with Angie. Um, so yeah, she goes to the little diner thing and she's like, "Angie," and she's like about to cry. And it shows like a vulnerable side to this relatively strong and very, closed off person. The only other time I think I've ever really seen her cry was right before Captain America
She also
dies.
dies after her last roommate gets shot.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm
She like
sorry.
outwardly sobs, but it's a
Yeah.
private moment.
Yeah, I mean like the first,
This,
yeah. So she goes in and she tells Angie, which I think was a great. I think she should have performed the eulogy at Ray's funeral. So she
yes,
basically she goes, "Oh, this man I worked with died," and Angie's like, "Oh, that's awful." And she goes, "No, he was, he wasn't the greatest guy." Like she goes off and like lists all his flaws, but he was really good at his job. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice," because he really wasn't. He wasn't really good at his job.
but he
But that
wasn't
was
bad at his job either. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and he's the reason why they got Jarvis in the first place. And he was the
yeah,
only one who figured out that Peggy was there. Granted, he didn't figure it out so much as he was basically told, and then he gets shot in
yeah.
the head. But he wasn't bad at his job. He was an idiot
Hmm.
and an asshole and a philanderer.
Yeah.
But it's still sad that he's dead.
Yeah, and they do like this, and after she says it, they do like this great pan of her, and then they go out and they pull away, and you see the external shot of the diner, and then the beautiful 40s music is playing, and it was a very cinematic and non-superhero like scene, and I think
Yeah.
that was amazing about it. It was like it's something that you could see in a movie that would have nothing to do with Marvel. There was nothing Marvel about it,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
I
what I
think
like.
the thing that's different that sets Agent Carter apart from the cinematic universe and even from Agents of Shield is that it's very specific about the fact that life goes on outside of working in these secret organizations. She still has to exist in the world. In the
Yeah.
Marvel movies, the world doesn't matter during the 2 hours that the movie is happening because that's all that matters is what's happening in their very narrow worldview. In Agents of Shield, they are, at least at this point in time, a secret organization who are living underneath this thing in her, I'm pretty sure, her first shield base, or possibly even the SSR base she currently works in. So they're all, it's their world is themselves. So this is the first time that Marvel has really accepted the fact that the world goes on. And I think that actually jives really well with the post-World War II world, is that for 5 years for Americans, or for 4 years for Americans, the only thing that existed was the war. It was World War II, everything. Everything you did was because of the war. For Europe, it was longer. And then the war ends, and all of a sudden, you have to figure out what you do now. And a lot of things changed really fast. And I think that this show actually really personifies that idea of coping with your life post-war and figuring out how to fit in with society when still being a totally different person than the rest of the world thinks that you are.
Righto.
And there we get really deep.
Yeah. Ooh. Little history, you know. So that's pretty much it for this episode.
Yes.
Now,
I did not see a preview for next week, whatever. Is it 2 weeks?
Is it? I don't think so. Why would it be 2 weeks?
I don't know. Someone said something about 2 weeks. In the next episode, what happens? Because I have no idea.
So, next episode, I guess, I was wondering, I go, well, now that they found the bad babies, like, where do they go from here? I guess they're still on the Stark witch hunt. They might have the bad babies, but they still need to figure out who stole the bad babies. So Stark shows up, makes an appearance, and shows himself. I don't know if he gets interrogated because he has a black eye. They don't show that, but I'm assuming that maybe Jack brings him in and beats him up a little.
Or Peggy punches him.
It's true, but she already has a black eye while he's talking to Peggy.
So that's why she probably didn't.
But, you know, a chick could have punched him in the eye because, you know, he didn't call her. I don't know. It's Howard Stark. So they have apparently Howard drops something on Peggy and she feels like he's been lying to her. So there's a big Howard Stark-Peggy showdown from what I got from the preview. So we'll see. We'll see what Howard Stark. Clearly from the first episode, we know that Jarvis and Howard Stark are not telling Peggy everything.
Yes.
Because he has that mysterious phone call in the car. So.
Right, where she's like a candidate or something.
Yeah, like, oh, shit. Jarvis says, you're right, Mr. Stark. She's the perfect candidate for this mission or something like that. So.
Well, I would assume that that's got something to do with S.H.I.E.L.D., but that's just me assuming. Because that was what the Agent Carter short was about. Was about Howard Stark showing up and saying, hey, you should go run S.H.I.E.L.D. Come do that.
Okay. Well, maybe. We'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah,
we shall.
Stark's back.
Stark is back. That's fun because I really like him. I think he's fun. I think the two of them together is a really interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, hey, and she's like, shut up.
Yeah, she's like, I don't
need your shit, okay?
Yeah.
We'll see that. I also like that somebody finally called Daniel out on the fact that he has a crush on her.
Yeah, it was Ray. May he rest in peace. And he said,
yes.
He said another great, Ray line. He goes, why would she trade in a red, white, and blue shield for a crutch?
Yeah, exactly. And that was the moment where I realized they probably do know about her relationship with Captain America. Or at least that she worked with him, as we have already established.
Yeah.
All right, so usually we end these episodes with predictions, but I think we've decided to not do that for this show.
I don't think Marvel throws so many curveballs that it's really hard for me to even try to make a prediction outside of, like, crazy ones. Like, I wouldn't even predict that Ray would die. So
I'm against making predictions for the show personally just because I like the ride and I don't really care to think about it too much going forward. I'm willing to just let Marvel take me on the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's been fun so far. It should be fun for another 5 weeks. We will be doing these Agent Carter episodes for the next 5 weeks. We will also, fingers crossed, be live tweeting for the next 5 weeks, assuming that I don't have a major splitting headache again, which is what happened yesterday and why I did not live tweet it or watch it until today. And also, I have classes that start next Tuesday, so assuming I get home in time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we will hopefully be live tweeting for the next 5 weeks. I'm sure Kate will probably put in more of an effort than I will. And you'll probably see at least one of us on Twitter every Tuesday at 9 o'clock for Agent Carter on ABC. I'm at Tricia Ennis on Twitter. She's at Kate Calabra. We'll be using the hashtag Agent Carter to talk about the show. And you can also talk about this show, Two Chicks One Show, by using the hashtag Two Chicks One Show. It's right there for all of your spelling and numbered convenience. And this show airs every Wednesday at 6. And it's great. This is the first time we've actually managed to put the show on the All Geek to Me channel. So it will be airing here from now on, hopefully. You'll probably be able to join us tomorrow for Oscar nomination discussion if you would like. We're not sure what time, so follow us on Twitter at AllGeekToMeNet or us personally on Twitter. We'll let you know when we're going to do that. And we will be live tweeting Oscar nominations tomorrow. There's a lot of stuff going on with the internet today.
Yes.
I think that's going to do it. I'm going to stop talking and annoying you all. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Two Chicks, One Show. We will see you next week.
See ya.